Welcome back to the Brotherhood Blitz, where rivalries are personal, dynasties are earned, and every snap means something. I'm here with my brother and co-host 409K, and we're breaking down the biggest moments, the toughest matchups, and the plays that changed everything.
Yeah, welcome back times two this time. It's been a few weeks, but getting an episode out as much as we can. We get my brother and I got a lot going on personally with I just finished moving and then now my brother is getting ready to move as well.
Yeah, getting ready to move twice actually. I got to move once and then move again soon after. But nonetheless, we're getting an episode out to y'all, and yeah, like you said, didn't get one out last week, so we got 2 weeks to go over real quick. And if you want to jump right into it.
Yeah, well, we'll go into week number 5 and we'll quickly go through all of week 5 and then my brother will do quickly all of week 6 and then we'll get into some of our later segments of the episode. In week 5, we had Miami beating USC 19 to 17. We had LSU beating Cincinnati 26 to 21. We had Ole Miss beating Colorado 30 to 28. We had Texas beating Georgia 38 to 10. We had Hawaii beating Mizzou 48-17. We had Florida State being upsetting Maryland at the time 23 to 17. We had Michigan beating Rutgers 41 to 31, and then we had North Carolina beating Arkansas 41 to 34.
Yeah, and going into week 6, we had Rutgers beating Georgia 34 to 24, Texas beating Florida State 41 to 20, LSU surviving Colorado 25 to 20, North Carolina beating Maryland 37 to 30, Mizzou upsetting USC 34 to 24, and Hawaii barely surviving Cincinnati 26 to 24. We had Michigan topping Arkansas 66 to 7, and then we had finishing out week 6, we had Miami beating Ole Miss 54 to 34.
Yeah, a lot of crazy games that we had, especially this past week and even the last 2 weeks. Cincy almost pulling off the upset of the century. We had Rutgers upsetting Georgia, uh, UNC upsetting Maryland, Colorado inching close to upsetting LSU, and then Michigan absolutely dominating Arkansas for almost 4 straight quarters.
Yeah, and the Mizzou upsetting USC
Yeah, that
34
that
20.
was getting their second win in program history, and now honestly, still in a fight for a playoff spot potentially, depending on how some stuff pans out these last few weeks. A lot on the line for a lot of these teams, especially teams that are 3-3, 2-4. Playoffs are still in the hopes for a good chunk of the league still.
Yeah, and it's we're in the heart of the regular season right now, and anything can happen. And these next few weeks are definitely gonna show and answer a lot of questions that people have.
I definitely agree.
But this time, I know last episode we went over the previous 2 weeks of that episode, and we didn't get to do players of the week, but this time we are able to do that. So, brother, if you don't mind, if you want to name off the offensive players of the week.
Yeah, we have a lot of good candidates for this week 6. We'll go with starting with offense. We have Rain Alexander, QB of Michigan, Damon Williams III, wide receiver of Michigan, Marshall Law, QB of Miami, Ryan Windley, QB of North Carolina, Showtime Jones, wide receiver of Hawaii, Muddy Bunts, wide receiver of North Carolina, Tyshawn Washington, halfback of Cincinnati, Yuri Satoshi, halfback of Rutgers, Malik Young, halfback of Missouri, and Thad Castle, tight end of Michigan.
Going on to the defense, we have Max Capone, free safety of Texas, Cam Jeffries, defensive tackle of North Carolina, Sawyer Wallace, middle linebacker of USC, Richard Solid Jr., defensive end of USC, Tino Alston, defensive end of North Carolina, King Trident, free safety of Ole Miss, Rex Razor, strong safety of North Carolina, Tyler Jones Drew, middle linebacker of Cincinnati, JT Gates, defensive tackle bum from Cincinnati, Calvin Cross from middle linebacker of Colorado. And going on to special teams, we have Gordon Shumway Jr., wide receiver of LSU, Cease Miller, cornerback of Maryland, Flash Maddox, cornerback of Ole Miss, Muddy Blunts, wide receiver of North Carolina, and Waylon Ziegler, free safety of Florida State.
Also, just to quickly say, Gates, if you're listening, that was my brother's idea, so don't get mad at me. And the winner for player of the Brotherhood Blitz Player of the Week will be Damon Williams III, wide receiver in Michigan, with 9 receptions, 198 yards for 22 average, 4 touchdowns, and 3 pancakes.
And the winner for defensive player of the week, we picked Cam Jeffries, defensive tackle of North Carolina, with 5 tackles, 4 of them being a TFL. 3 of those TFLs were sacks and a forced fumble. And then special teams, we had Gordon Shumway Jr., wide receiver of LSU, with 4 kick returns for 134 yards on an average of 33.5, and 4 punt returns for 37 yards and an average of 9.3.
And congrats to all three of you fine gentlemen. And I will say for offense, it was basically a coin flip between Rain Alexander and Damon Williams III. I mean, either one of them deserves it, even league wide. Defense, Cam Jeffries had a very monstrous game and getting the upset win over Maryland in a very close game. And then special teams, I mean, Gordon Shumway Jr., he don't have those type of kick returns and special team moments. LSU is probably looking at being upset by Colorado.
Yeah, congratulations to all of y'all, and we'll jump right into week 7.
Yeah, we'll start off. We do have prospect games on Monday. We have Timberwolves and, facing the Owls and the Griffins facing the Leviathans. But starting off week number 7 on the Tuesday slate, Hawaii versus LSU, and which two top 5 ranked teams going head to head.
Yeah, this is an amazing matchup, and this is probably my pick for game of the week. Um, this is definitely going to be a great game, as both of these teams um, just basically barely survived last week. LSU topping Colorado by 5 points, and Hawaii barely surviving against Cincinnati with having to march down the field last drive and get a game-winning field goal to only win by 2. It makes for a great matchup, and I'm excited for it.
I'm excited as well. Like you mentioned, both these teams have LSU has won yeah, 5 straight since losing in week 1, and Hawaii kind of since their loss against Michigan, had a dominant win against Mizzou, but kind of struggled to really outperform teams fully, even though they have won every game. My pick's going to be LSU.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also picking LSU. I think it's going to be a great game and a very close game, and it's probably going to come down to, probably who has the ball last or turnovers, whoever wins the turnover battle. So, yeah, I'm picking LSU in this one, but it's going to be a great game.
It's going to really come down to defense with LSU having the top ranked points per game allowed in the league with I think it's like 19 or so.
Going on to Miami versus Colorado in an overcast, calm evening. What do you think about this game?
This is an interesting game because Miami obviously kind of hitting stride late in the season, really when it matters, and Colorado last week almost upsetting LSU. So it's a tough matchup, but I do think the star power and the firepower that Miami does have, and just kind of with how they're clicking so far, getting a good couple wins in a row, I'm gonna pick Miami this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think LSU is definitely a strong opponent for Colorado, and they almost pulled it off. But now you're going to face Miami, who has started, like you said, started to get some footing this season, and I think they're gonna carry that momentum into this game and outscore Colorado.
You have Miami as well.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, it's tough because a lot of these games later on in the season, especially now that we're in week 7, every game for these teams that are kind of fighting for playoff position or even fighting to make the playoffs, all these wins matter. And especially in Colorado's case, you're 2-4. A win here can, give you that quality win that you need to for the committee to really say, okay, maybe Colorado does deserve one of the final spots. But a loss here, I don't want to say never like it's not possible because a lot of stuff can happen between now and when the final poll comes out for playoffs. But a loss here really hurts your chances.
Yeah, it's like we said earlier, we're in like the heart of the regular season, and a lot of these teams are 3-3, and it's almost a win out for a lot of these teams, and it's going to be an interesting last few weeks.
And going on to the next game, we have Maryland taking on Arkansas in an overcast calm game.
Yeah, I to be honest don't think this game's going to be close. I think Maryland's going to come out quickly and start scoring early, and I just don't think Arkansas will be able to keep up.
It's tough because both these teams are coming off losses. Maryland a very close loss, 7-point loss to UNC, and Arkansas. I mean, their game wasn't competitive really at all against Michigan, as they didn't score till like late in the fourth quarter. It, it's tough because Cade is a very great game planner. Just has a very young team around him. I will go with Maryland, but I don't be shocked if Cade pulls out some strings and makes this a very close game.
Yeah, agreed. Cade, you can never, it's kind of like with Rutgers. Arkansas doesn't get as many upsets as Rutgers usually do, but uh, it's still one I wouldn't be surprised with.
And going on to the next game on Wednesday, we have North Carolina going into Texas in a clear light breeze game.
Yeah, this one's gonna be a shootout. Uh, if if I had to guess, both being coaches from Texas, um, keep this short and sweet. Obviously, I'm gonna pick Texas in this game, but I do think North Carolina's offense is great, and it's going to be a great game. Texas trying to stop North Carolina's offense, and North Carolina trying to stop Texas offense. I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game.
Yeah, I think this is also in the case of Miami, where UNC is kind of hitting their stride when they absolutely needed to. Had a rough start to the season, same as Miami, uh, but North Carolina, beating Maryland last week was a pretty solid win and significantly quality win as well. Both, with North Carolina, secondary is probably the point that they're going to really have to step up to stop the passing attack of Texas. But Texas also can run the ball down your throat at will at times. I think North Carolina is a little younger in the secondary than Texas is currently, but we shall see. I mean, and this I do agree could be a very high scoring game.
Going on, we have Cincinnati taking on USC.
Oh, I mean, none of us expected. I wouldn't say none of us. A lot of people didn't expect Mizzou to come out with an upset win over USC last week. Cincinnati almost upset Hawaii last week. This game literally means everything to USC. You lose here, that's two significant losses back to back against Mizzou and then potentially Cincinnati, who had one win combined before last week for, Cincy and Mizzou. A loss here for USC like makes playoffs almost not possible. Cincy, 0-6 playoffs probably is probably not. the option or the play at the moment. Uh, but building towards next season and even building towards you know all the recruiting, a win here, you could play the Piper and play upset.
Yeah, going into uh, you saying Mizzou, upsetting USC, nobody expected that. Nobody expected Mizzou upsetting Cincinnati either. Both these teams losing to Mizzou, and yeah, Cincinnati, they've looked decent all season. They've
It's
been into
scrappy.
some, yeah, they're making their opponents earn it for sure. They're not an easy opponent. They're not an easy win. And I think they're going to carry that into this game, and they're not going to be an easy win for USC. It's going to be a very scrappy game, like you said. Um, Cincinnati losing, 0-6 this season, but like we just said, that in every game they've been, one score or two scores loss, and um, it makes for a great game here. And I think I'm actually going to go for the upset here, and I'm going to pick Cincinnati.
I'm also going to pick Cincinnati, but a quick little tidbit for Cincy this season. In week one, they lost by 7 to UNC. Week two, they lost by 8 to Texas. Week three, their biggest loss of the season so far. At week three, lost to Mizzou by 17. Colorado lost by 5 in week four. LSU lost by 5 in week five. And then last week, they only lost by 2 to Hawaii. So they lost by 7 points against two top three teams in the league in the back-to-back weeks. They've played scrappy, and USC has got to do better on offense significantly, or they're going to look at getting upset.
Yeah, and like you said, USC needs to win this game. If they don't win this game, you can almost kiss playoffs goodbye.
I agree, and that loss to Mizzou last week really gave them a bad loss. I mean, looking at it, committee's perspective, the committee would consider that a bad loss, and I think USC knows that, so they're gonna come out with guns a blazing and try and pull off this win.
Yeah, USC almost needs to think that this is a playoff game and it's a win or not make playoffs.
I also agree to that statement.
Going on to Mizzou versus Ole Miss.
This is also a game where you would consider Ole Miss, the heavy favorite. They did lose to Miami, in which again they had quite the hand on and just had a second half collapse. Mizzou coming off, an upset over USC, so they, had some fire under their butt to maybe upset two teams in a row. I do think Rush and the coaching staff at Ole Miss are working hard to figure out, okay, where do we go wrong? What can we fix, and how do we move forward to claim a playoff spot in our first season? And Mizzou, a win here, playoffs for sure ain't out of the answer after going winless the season before.
Yeah, it makes for an exciting game. Um, like you said, Mizzou wins. They keep their playoffs hopes alive. Um, you know, I'd like to think they're not out of the playoffs. Obviously, they're 2-4 right now. If they win out, they win. They exit the regular season at 5-4, and which would mean they would beat Ole Miss, Hawaii. Both of those are huge wins, and I think that would get them into playoffs. But with that being said, Ole Miss coming off a loss, um, a pretty hurtful loss, like you said, that they were in that game, I believe, up until the fourth quarter. Um, it was a close game until the fourth quarter, and it was just a fourth quarter collapse. And it's kind of been like that for Ole Miss. And most of their losses, they've been in close games, and then they let up, and their opponent just keeps a foot on the gas. Um, But with that being said, I am gonna pick Ole Miss in this game. I think their coaching staff is gonna get it right in this one and take this win over Mizzou and use that momentum uh, to go beat or not beat, but you know I haven't got that far yet, but go into next week against Cincinnati and keep their playoff hopes alive.
And the note, the rest of the schedule for Mizzou is obviously they have Ole Miss this week, but then they have Miami the week after, and then they end the season with Colorado. Three very tough games the end of the season. Actually, since week 4, they've had LSU, Hawaii, USC, Ole Miss, Miami, and then obviously Colorado to end the season. So a very uh, tough break from the middle of the season to the end for that part of the schedule. But I'm also picking Ole Miss.
Going on, we have Michigan taking on Georgia in a partly cloudy, moderate wind night.
Yeah, in Georgia, obviously a lot of stuff has happened since last week in terms of the coaching staff for Georgia. New head coach, Grumpy Yard Dog, Memphis Reigns, new head coach for Georgia. So I'm curious to see what do we see out of Georgia now. They've started the season 3-0 and lost the last 3 weeks in a row. Uh, Michigan's looked had a dominant win against Arkansas. Has a lot of momentum going forward. Top 5 team in the league. Uh, Tough to say because I think Michigan can do a lot of different things on offense. Defense at times can be a little inconsistent, but I am going to go Michigan this game.
Yeah, new head coach for Georgia and his first game, a moderate wind game, not ideal. Um, Obviously, Georgia has looked good this season, um, but so has Michigan, and I think with Georgia having a new head coach, I think that's going to play a huge role into this game. Now we might be surprised, new head coaches, you never know, unpredictable. So we might get surprised here, and we might get an upset win over Michigan here. But my pick is going to be Michigan. Going on to Florida State versus Rutgers.
A team of gets upsets against teams they probably shouldn't be beating on
Yeah,
paper.
yeah, both these teams have some pretty good upsets this season, and it makes for a great matchup.
And before we go take a look at Florida State and how they have done this season, they had a back-to-back upsets against UNC and Maryland before losing to Texas in the last 3 weeks. The rest of their schedule is Rutgers, Michigan, and then Georgia to end their season. But if you go and look at Rutgers' schedule, they are on a coming off a back-to-back defeats against Arkansas and Michigan, but getting the upset win versus Georgia, and the rest of their schedule is Florida State, North Carolina, and Maryland.
Yeah, you know, both these teams upsetting Georgia, and like we just said it earlier, Georgia, they're a great team. So getting that win over them for both these teams was huge, and um, it's going to be a great game. Uh, Florida State, an amazing run heavy team, um, and it's going to be, can Rutgers find ways to stop that run? If Florida State can figure out how to not only keep running like they have been all season, but scoring while running and not, getting all these yards, but, getting down to like the, opponent's 40, 45 yard line and then having to punt. If you're at least getting threes, you're, a couple threes here and getting those touchdowns. This could be an interesting game, and uh, I think I'm gonna have to go with Florida State here.
I'm also gonna go with Florida State, but this is as literally a 50-50 game as you can get.
Yeah, it's. I've thought about this game a lot.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild week 7 to say the least. We have honestly a pretty stacked schedule.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild last 3 weeks.
A lot of teams standing at 3-3. I mean, if I go look at the standings right now, you got one team at Ole Miss 3-3, Georgia 3-3, Maryland 3-3, Miami 3-3, Florida State 3-3, UNC 3-3, Rutgers 3-3. I mean, it's the middle of the standing is a lot of those teams are fighting for playoffs, and then you got some 2-4 teams like USC, Arkansas, Colorado, Mizzou, still fighting for playoff spots. Uh, it's gonna be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, and we're excited for it for sure.
Yeah, but brother, do we got anything else for this episode?
I believe that would be it if you want to carry us out.
Yeah, we once again apologize for the inconsistencies that we've had this season. Like if both of us had some life stuff come up with moving and different things, just being busy, especially me with my work schedule, has kind of made it hard to do stuff on time the way we want it. But we will try and get episodes out as we can, especially the next few weeks and going into the end of the season, especially with my brother, like you said, moving twice. Uh, So if you don't see the episode, don't be too worried. We'll get one out as we can. But we appreciate everyone for tuning in and still giving us love as always. And this is the Brotherhood Blitz.